Yeah, we are we're live. All right, we're live. That was it. Just yeah, we are ready to go. Off the mark,
Excellent,
buddy.
mate. Awesome stuff. Cool. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on whenever you're watching it back. What we're on Tuesday. Tuesday, we're on week 8
Tuesday.
of our level 1 course, and this morning we're going to be looking mainly at sort of fitness and exercise facilities that are available sort of local to yourself, and maybe, to be honest, start having a little bit of a look at what is going to be available over the next couple of months as things start to open up again. Like I've sort of mentioned it in weeks that we've done before, sessions that we've done before, rather than waiting until everything opens up and then say, right, what am I going to do for fitness? What's best suited for me? Or all of a sudden, like, you've got to pull out for new trainers for running, or new bottoms and new like hoodie and stuff for the gym, or whatever it's going to be, or a new bottle. If we can start thinking ahead now and think, you know what, when the swimming baths reopen again in a month, in 2 months' time, I really want to get into that, but the cost's been a bit of a barrier before. Can we start saving a little bit now, or putting like a fiver aside each week, so you know that I don't know, even if you save 20 quid, that could be your first 4 swims when you get back into things, already paid for. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? For the cost of what a takeaway, you know. So it's been a frustrating year in terms of sort of what we've had available to us, and what we've been able to do. But there's kind of been no better time to start thinking about, okay, when things are a little bit more back to normal, um, which direction would I like to go with things,
Yeah.
Especially, like I say, we're 8 weeks into this course now. We've looked at body types, we've looked at nutrition, we've looked at different components of fitness. So you might be thinking and sort of reassessing a little bit more, There might be just that little bit of, okay, I've tried swimming before, I've tried the gym before, none of those were for me. And that the reasons why that is the case might make a little bit more sense now, even if it
Mhm.
was like a barrier that came down to your confidence or your time or something like that, or maybe it's even just your own natural abilities. Where do you feel best suited? What is your body type, and what genetically, what are you sort of going to be more natural at? We've sort of talked about it before, how somebody like Usain Bolt, the fastest man on earth, is built for a 100-meter sprint, not a marathon. Do you know what I mean? He's the fastest man on earth, but you put him in like a Great North Run or a marathon against a Mo Farah, and he's going to get left in the dust, isn't he? So
Yeah,
we all have
exactly.
different strengths. We naturally sort of gravitate towards different things, Daniel, I know you in all your different sports and stuff like that. Obviously, like the UFC, your MMA,
Yeah,
all of
dude.
that sort of thing. You tend to find that different weight classes, you'll have sort of like a sort of similar sort of body type, an athletic sort of body type. It's not
Yeah.
always sort of cut and dry. It's not always so black and white. I always make the exception that Tyson Fury isn't your stereotypical looking
True.
boxer,
True.
But then again, you look at if you look at sort of the high jump, shot put and hammer throw is a massive one. You don't get people built like Mo Farah
Yep.
doing the shot put, especially in sort of like in a competitive sort of format. So yeah, we might be just reassessing a little bit, where you might want to go with your own fitness, because that's the name of the game at the end of the day, isn't it? We all, it's interesting to know the information, but I guess what we all want to do really is be able to sort of extract that and apply it to our own lives, because 99.9% of us aren't training for the Olympics or a competition or a photo shoot. We just want to be able to take it into our normal life, get our exercise in, maybe in less time, in a way that feels sort of manageable, but challenging at the same time as well.
Exactly.
um so just for longevity, how many people do you know, buddy, and I've countless over the years that just want to train so that their knees last longer into their life, their back lasts longer into
Totally.
their
Yeah.
life, they can sort of stand up straight and keep their posture going for longer, and just obviously your heart and lungs and everything going on in the inside as well needs to work. And the older we get, of course, we mentioned the other week, the older we get, the harder your heart and lungs and stuff have to work. So we do need to look after them. It's not all just about the muscles that look good in the mirror and that we can tense and that
Glamour
and look good on
muscles.
the old selfies. Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it. It's not just about being swole, is it? You know.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
But yeah, we've got a lot to look at this morning. Just to recap on last week. Morning, Gaz. I just seen Gaz is getting in the chat. Morning, dude. Um, so far the only person who has met my little puppy, you know. So we might get him on today if Alex gets a break. Morning, Gaz. Nice to have you in, buddy. So for everybody enrolled on the course, Gaz, I know you're not this time round, but for everybody enrolled on the course, we were talking last week a little bit about presentations that we're going to be doing, you know. So again, we sort of talked in a little bit more in depth about sort of the stuff that we can do those presentations on. I know it was Haytham that was on with us last week, but I know Daniel, you actually did this last time we ran the course, and we were looking at obviously some of the presentations that learners have done in the past.
Yeah.
You know, and some of them have been absolutely amazing, you know, and it always comes down to the ones that are sort of close to your heart, you know, something that you've got,
of course, man.
something that you're passionate about, you know. So again, if you're not really sure about what you're going to do your presentation on, give me a shout and we'll try and get something sorted out. And across this week, if you can, and if you feel ready to, the next week or next week at the latest, we're going to get them one-to-one Zooms booked in, and we're going to take a little bit of time. Like I say, just be delivering them to me. And like I say, we'll get them boxed off, a little bit of feedback in your workbook, and then that workbook's done. Absolutely sort of done and dusted, ticked off. Everything will be good to go with that one, and we can move on and put that presentation to bed because, you know, for all I'm saying, chill out, relax about it. You know, you're only talking to me. I've done public speaking. I don't enjoy public speaking. I always feel better when it's done. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think I mentioned last week, you know, I couldn't enjoy my sister's wedding until my speech was done. Do you know what I mean? I had the full morning to just stress about it.
That's it, man. If you spend too much time, you know, thinking about a thing, you never get it done. So it's like, it's just getting it done, get out of the way with, and that's it. Because it's like, people get stuck in that mindset, man, and it's for public speaking or for anything, you know, presentations in where you can just, you'll dwell on it so much that you won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that it's weird because it's like it's occupying so much space in your mind, but you're using so much effort to not think about it. Whereas if you just done it and finished it, then that's it, and you don't have to let it take up space in your mind anymore. So
yeah, that's a really good point, man. You know, and especially sort of like emotionally as well. You know, we only have capacity to spend so much emotion in a day.
yeah,
You know, if you have like a really, really high emotion day, you get to sort of tea time and you just absolutely like a wrung out flannel. You know,
exactly. There's a really good quote where it's, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's like saying that you know, by procrastinating from something that you need to do, it's like guaranteeing the outcome that you don't want. So it's like, you know what I'm saying, by like, so by putting it off, it's like you're literally guaranteeing what you're fearing anyway. So it's like, it's kind of weird that it's like, you know.
yeah, yeah. And you know what? There's something to be said for sort of like having something just eternally on the horizon coming up that you've got to worry about.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Where you're like, oh, it's a month away, it's 3 weeks away, whatever it is. And the longer you put that off and move it back, you know, if you've got the power to do that, then you're just dragging that out over what would be 3 weeks and then it's done. You could drag that out for 6 months, you know, or a year, you know, as we've all done in the past. You know, it gets to the point where it is just easier to do it. And do you know what? The longer you put it off, and the more you build it up in your mind of, do you know what? This is just this unsort of manageable obstacle or this thing that you just don't really want to do. You've got more time to build up this negative perception of it, you know, rather than just let it come, take it in your stride, let it pass, and it's like, do you know what? That was never as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't done a single class, presentation, assessment, observation, anything in my life that I can think of that has been as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Once it's done, do you know what? I always feel daft afterwards and go, I don't know what I was stressed about, you know?
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally agree with you, mate. And it's yeah, any time that I've ever been like stuff like being observed, that's always the one that really gets like me nervous. And like, it's never as bad as you think. And even, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's just it's never as bad as you think, because it's easy once it's done. And that's it. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And it's like, you know, because
not only that, yeah. Go, bud.
I was just gonna say, like, you think in your head like mental stuff, like that you like, if you say if it's a presentation, you feel like, oh, what if like I just freeze when I get up there, and like it's, you know, that never would, it just doesn't happen, man. You'd be all right. But
yeah. Like you said, the longer you put it off as well, the more time you have to think about what could go wrong. It's like,
Exactly.
oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if that happens? And just like you were just saying there, buddy, it's a case of getting it done and out the way with. But at the same time, once you're at that point and it is done, you should get a real sense of achievement. You have actually ticked something off your list that's needed doing, potentially for however long. Do you know what I mean? It's not always a case of like, thank God that's done. At the same time, you should take pride in your ability and the fact that you have sort of weathered the storm a little bit,
Totally, man.
and sort of come out the other side in a better state than you probably ever thought you were gonna, because like we say, at the end of the day, it's never as bad as you think it's gonna be. It never is. And again, not to even build this up, but just thinking in terms of presentations in life, public speaking in life, challenges in life, stuff that you need to do. It's like ripping off a plaster, isn't it? Get it done. If you slowly pull off a plaster and it pulls each individual hair out, you're going to know about it. But if you just rip it off, it's done, isn't it? And you're like, okay, where can I move on to for me? So yeah, we'll get those booked in over the next week or so. We'll get them done and dusted, and then we can move on and go from there. Cool, buddy. Right. So just while we have a little bit of a natter amongst ourselves and maybe in the chat as well, if there's a couple of guys in there, if we can go to the next slide, please do. We've actually got a crossword to do. So I actually work better with a pen and paper with a crossword. So you can see obviously where they're crossing over, what letters each word's got in common and stuff like that. If you prefer just sort of working down through the clues and having a little bit of a guess, by all means, just do it that way or shout it out in the chat. But what we're going to do, we're just going to start filling in some of those clues while we just have a little bit of a natter, maybe 10 minutes or so, and then we'll get a real look into some of the different fitness classes that are out there. Because do you know what? Having taught a lot of different classes, I realise I still haven't really scratched the tip of the iceberg in terms of the classes that are out there, be it under different names, different licenses. You might see a Les Mills class, and then you might see a body pump class, and you might say, well, what's the difference? Do you know which one might be better for me? Sometimes it is just like a branding thing. It might be like a licensing or a franchise thing. Where say if I wanted to teach Insanity, I had to pay a license every month, whatever it was, £15, and they send out the class and the music and pretty much the choreography, because it is all sort of it's all moves to music and stuff like that. I couldn't just say, right, I'm doing Insanity, come and do Insanity, and it's just whatever I've made up. I could do that with something like a barbell class.
Yeah.
It could be exactly the same sort of thing. It could be set up exactly like Insanity, but I might just call it barbell or body blast or whatever. You're going to get different names in different places. So sometimes it is just a licensing thing. Sometimes it is a case of they are different classes. Be it spin, be it sort of metafit or anything like that. Legs, bums, and toms, Zumba. What was it, step-a-size or step aerobics and stuff like that had a massive flurry of popularity in the 90s. Did the old lycra and aerobics, definitely. So 90s, man, so 90s. But there's so many out there as well, and it can sometimes be quite overwhelming, especially if you've been and done a couple of these group exercises and they're not for you. It might put you off all of them.
Do you ever get like ideas for fitness classes, Rob? Because they've obviously be quite lucrative, that isn't it? Like think about the people who like someone who invented Zumba or whatever, or like that pound stick or whatever, with drumsticks. Like you can make a fortune off that. Like do you ever get ideas for like think like, oh, that'd be a good class actually if you do this or whatever?
Well, yeah, and the thing is, I never really took it down the line of okay, I'm going to brand it or anything like that, because some of it was more just me and the way that I would PT, sort of putting into class form and stuff like that. When I was working in the gym in Sedgefield, we actually did launch our own class, but that was me as staff working for the gym. So when I left, I took some of the concepts, but I left the name with him. It was SDC 30, and all it was speed, core, and dynamic. So you're talking sort of like speed, which might be sort of sprints on the spot, shoulder taps, getting as many reps in as you can. Then we would do obviously core. So we do maybe sort of I think it was about 7 minutes on speed, 7 minutes on core. So you're doing ab work, and then you're doing dynamic movement as well. So you're talking more plyometric, lateral jumps, forward jumps, jumping lunges, that sort of thing. So more sort of like we've sort of looked at, when we're talking about different components of fitness, just hitting them different components in their own class. I know Mel used to do boogie bounce. That was just a little personal trampolines that had like a little handle on the front, proper Gangnam style. That looked really fun. But I would just take a lot of ideas into what we would run in just as a boot camp or something like that. I always really try to focus on the one-on-one PT sort of stuff, because that's where I felt strongest.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, to be able to speak to the gym manager and say, do you know what, I've had this idea. Why don't we launch a class that does it this way, or where we really try and focus on this, that sort of thing. The only thing with that is when you're bringing out a brand new class name, you've got to generate hype and business for it. You know what I mean? Sure. As opposed to, I would find that a really big seller was you could just put any class down, call it boot camp, because there's no sort of criteria to be boot camp. And people go, boot camp, I've heard of that, I've seen people doing that, I've seen stories of people doing that on social media, that looks pretty cool, I'll go and check that out. Whereas if you look and see SDC 30, you're like, well, do you know what I mean? I might go and try something else that I have heard of before, So it is a balance, but it is, like you say, really, really sort of lucrative in the terms of being able to say, right, this is us and we're the only ones doing this at the minute. One of my favorite ones, and I wish I'd gotten into teaching at the time, is one called Pound. And that is using drumsticks, mate, drumsticks and just rhythm. Like you're sitting back and you're drumming on one side and you're drumming on the other side and then you're side to side. It's such a workout, man. It's such a workout. But I mean, if you ever watch like live performances and stuff like that, you get to the end and the drummers are always wringing sweat because it's such hard work.
Well, that's I saw like because we were doing the big charity drive for St. Benedict's, and that was one of the classes, and that was the first time I saw it. And it's like, it is like a lot of like Pilates mixed in with like a lot of kind of extra motion with the sticks as well. So it's like there's a lot of kind of, so it was really interesting actually. I thought it was quite a cool concept.
Yeah, that obviously that one appealed to the drummer in us straight away, and I think Mel did used to do that, or did at a time. I don't know if it was just like a special occasion thing that she rolled out when we had like the full class days at like a particular venue or something like that. But it did look really cool, So again, if that sort of thing, if moving to rhythm is your sort of thing, because you tend to find that you've got really two sort of different types of class. You've either got one that's choreographed to music, and you're going to be like squatting on the beat and jumping on the beat and stuff like that, or as close to as you can, and they're going to come sort of with a list of moves and stuff. Or you're going to have one where you're just saying, right, let's just work for time, you've got 60 seconds to do this for, and stuff like that, and don't worry about keeping up with the timer or the beat, just get as many in as you can. So again, people work differently. I always was so focused on keeping up with the beat in the choreograph sort of classes that it's easy to lose form. That's something that we've mentioned before. If you're trying to squat on like the beat of the music, and it's like bam bam bam, and you're like up down, there's some people that can't get all the way up and down in that time. You might just be getting half a rep in and stuff like that, so I'll be more likely to say, right, 60 seconds, do as many as you can, but make them good reps.
Makes sense.
At the same time, some people work better and just staying with the music. Do you know what I mean? I've done some spin classes. The way I used to do spin, that was all choreographed to music. If a sort of like if there were beat drops and stuff like that, we might be sort of working a lot harder, pedaling on the beat of the music. If we get like a bridge in the middle of a song or a gap in the middle of a song, turn your resistance down and have a little bit of recovery. And I tell you what, there was some the song Paradise City by Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
I used to do, I think the last 90 seconds of that is a guitar solo, and the rest of the band just goes absolutely nuts. I used to do a sprint, and you know what? Like sprints over 20 seconds, 30 seconds are hard. That 90-second sprint, mate, was awful. But you know what? Because it was with the music, and I'm saying to people, come on, there's 20 seconds of the track left. Don't stop before it's done. That would actually motivate people and keep people going as well. Whereas if it was a case of stop when you're tired, they probably would have stopped 10, 20, 30 seconds sort of prior to that, you know. So sometimes having the beat of the music works really well. I know that the first body pump I came through and did with Mel absolutely kicked my backside, because I was doing a lot of strength training at the time, not much endurance. And like I say, there was one track that was it was essentially bicep curls for like 4 minutes.
Oh
but
my
like
God.
different like you would come up and then you'd do like the top half of the range, and then you'd come down and do the bottom half of the range, then you'd come up and hold it for like 3 beats. And I'd never done it before. And at the same time, you know, knowing like, right, okay, I've got to get to the end of this verse and I've got like a break. It was like, right, I will keep going. Whereas if I'd have just been in a normal class, it'd be so easy to say, grab a breather now, get back in when you can, sort of thing. So again, it depends on your mindset, I guess, you know, what motivates you to work hardest.
I mean, yeah, dude, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about a lot of these classes as well, because before I'd even heard of body pump, like I thought like, oh, you know, it's body pump, it's like it's to music or something. It's going to be like something that maybe a lot more girls do or whatever. But when I actually went to go and film it and I saw it, it's really, really tough. It looks, because it's like you're using like weights, man, and you're doing like X amount of squats, X amount of curls, as you just said, and it's like it's so killer. I mean, that could be so killer. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got some good footage of because Haytham came on that Sunday as well, and he'd just been from a
Class.
football match, so he'd like just finished a football match, right? Like played a football match, and then
Oh
he
man.
had to do a body pump session, and like his expression, you could tell he was in pain, like.
Oh mate, it's brutal. Like it really is. And
Yeah.
do you know what? Like they used to call me like the baby faced assassin because I'd smile while trying to tell you to do more reps. But I tell you what, Mel's brutal.
Yeah.
Mel's brutal. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man.
definitely. I'm the nice one. I'm good cop. I'm good cop. When you get me and Mel together, I'm definitely good cop. Like yeah, yeah, definitely. But that's a really good point you just made there. I think there is this misconception that group exercise is just for women,
Yeah.
or sort of, and I think it's marketed more towards women. Certainly, a lot of the classes, and I tend to find, um, it's the social side of it that it's nothing to do with the content of the class.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Unless it's something like a legs, bums, and tum, and you're down on all four doing glute kickbacks and sort of the old booty shaping exercises, that obviously women tend to gravitate towards more than blokes do.
Yeah.
Because you know, man want to lift weight, heavy weight, at the end of the day. But do you know what? I've seen classes over the years, and my boot camps were regularly sort of like a mix of men and women. You know, so it's definitely not a case of it's just for women. But you know what? I think it's nobody wants to be the first bloke.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Nobody wants to be that first bloke. Kind of somebody has to be the first bloke to go and join in,
For
don't they?
sure. Yeah. Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Before more guys will look at it and say, "Oh, do you know what? Like that might be for me." That sort of thing, you know. We actually used to run at one of the gyms. We used to run just a men's transformation group. We used to call it on a Thursday, and it was just like it was small group PT. Pretty much, it was up to 5 slots where people could come in, but it was all lads, and it was all designed around hypertrophy, which a lot of classes aren't. A lot of classes are obviously designed to keep your heart rate up,
Yeah. Yeah.
keep you burning calories, and keep the time of the session down, maybe even, you know, which is hard to do when you're sort of maybe having a minute or two rest in between each set, so you can stay strong and do the hypertrophy sort of training. You know, where you're doing your next set where your muscles are quite fresh. But that was the way we used to do it, and that used to go over really well. That was regularly full. And again, that was sort of marketed as and sort of put across as a blokes only class, because if you'd have just put a body transformation group on, I'm sure the first 5 names on the piece of paper probably would have been lasses.
True.
You know.
True. Yeah.
So we tried to offer something for both. You know, we had a bikini boot camp for women, obviously working on sort of like on the beach body and on the physique and stuff like that. And then we used to do, like I say, the men's transformation group. So again, those two alone I've never seen in any other gym. You know, so there's just so much out there, and there's so much choice. And when we're going to get a look in a second into some of the more common ones that you might have come across before. In the meantime, we may as well just blast through the answers for this crossword. So rather than exercise classes, we've been just looking at different activities that we could do, maybe some sports in there, you know, maybe stuff that you would prefer to do by yourself, or maybe you prefer being in a competitive sort of environment. you know, be it sort of competitive sports, football, rugby, tennis, that sort of thing. Maybe the idea of going into a studio and watching somebody at the front of the class and just mimicking their movements isn't really for you. You know, there's so much more to fitness than that, you know. I've only got to look at some, obviously, some of the sportsmen in the world, and say, women as well, you know, some of the athletes in the world, and you know that they're in really good shape without necessarily doing or they don't just do the stuff in the gym. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure they do stuff in the gym as well. I've seen the way that Cristiano Ronaldo would train. I know Alan Shearer was the first one in and out of the gym most of the time. Just in terms of doing his weight training, he was a unit to try and move off the ball. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't make centre forwards like that anymore. They just don't.
Yeah.
But of course, there's so much more available in the terms of activities, and the majority of them is the only stuff we've had at our disposal for the last year, you know, because classes have been written off, contact sports have been written off for a lot of it, you know. I'm not sure what the rules are at the minute in terms of like five-a-side and netball and stuff like that. I think training and that sort of thing is just coming back as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, some of these have been really handy over the last year and letting us stay active. So let's have a look through. So we've got 6 across, lifting heavy weights. Is of course just weightlifting, you know. You might hear it called different stuff, but that's the one I've always called it. Just lifting weights, weightlifting, resistance training. You might heard it called. You know, I mentioned that quite a lot when I'm talking about, especially when I'm on about building bone density and sort of staving off osteoporosis and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
combating that. We think of it as resistance training because it adds resistance for your body to work against, which helps the bone strength. Same as swimming, obviously you've got the resistance of the water, whereas when you're just running on a treadmill, you've not really got any resistance other than gravity to work against, which is why we don't get the muscle stimulation. So again, you know, the amount of women over the years that I had say to me, look, I don't want to lift weights. Normally while they're running on the treadmill for the 5th time that week, like, oh, I don't want to do weights. I don't want to get blocky. I don't want broad shoulders. I don't want to look like Arnie. I've said to them, like, look, I'm lifting weights 5 days a week. If that was enough to get you to look like Arnie, do you know what I mean? I'd struggle to get through the front door, you know, but like, I don't eat to look like that. I don't train to look like that. The women that do look like that, more often than not, train for that purpose, you know, and I've got a lot of respect for them in doing that, because I've seen, no matter what your gender, I've seen the dedication that goes into training to look like that. It doesn't happen by accident, you know. It's a famous Arnold Schwarzenegger quote when people used to say, oh, I'd never want to look like you. They used to say, don't worry, you won't. You know, just cold-blooded, man, just cold-blooded, just like that, just murdering people on the spot like that. But do you know what? It's exactly right. It doesn't happen by accident, and you can actually stimulate more weight loss and burn more calories from the resistance training and from the weight training as you would running on the treadmill. Again, it's just about structure. Do you do 10 kettlebell swings or 10 overhead press and then stand still and let your heart rate recover? Or do you do 10 overhead press into 10 bent over row into 10 squats? Then you can go back to the start, you know. And while one muscle group's working, the other one's resting, and then you can just keep it on a bit of a cycle. One of the classes actually that I've done on the Media Savvy channel is what we call AMRAP training, or as many reps as possible.
Yeah.
So rather than saying, right, you're going to do 10 squats, 10 tuck jumps, 10 star jumps, and then you're going to rest, what you're actually going to do might be 10, 10, 10, as many times through in 5 minutes, whatever that timer might be. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it is a case of really keeping you moving, keeping your heart rate up while your legs are resting. Your upper body might be working with press ups, and then you might come into sort of like a running on the spot. So then by the time you go back to your squats, your legs are fresh again.
Yeah.
You know, if that makes sense. So you're really only stopping when you need to. Otherwise, you just 10, 10, 10, and just keep looping through for 5 minutes. And do you know what? That really gets your heart rate up as much as anything. Your muscles are going to burn, but it's pretty much 5 minutes. Like I'm just saying there, like that body pump class that I did with Mel, even a bicep curl or bicep track for 5 minutes, because I didn't stop for 5 minutes. You know, your heart rate just doesn't have time to settle and come back down. And yeah, you can actually burn more calories that way. So don't be scared of resistance training. Don't be scared of weight training. Because like I say, there's a lot more to it than just lift heavy weights, flex muscles in mirror sort of thing, you know. And I think that there's a lot of sort of sort of stigma or like that's the way it's perceived, you know,
for sure.
weightlifting, go in, chuck a load of weights around. Normally don't put them away after you and just walk out, you know, like you're carrying a carpet under each arm, you know, invisible lat syndrome, I call it, you know.
This is a classic.
Yeah, invisible, walking all like the carrying carpets, you know. But yeah, there was a place probably in everybody's training. I haven't come across anybody over the years that couldn't benefit from a little bit of resistance training, you know. And it might be something that we need to think about trying to get in as things open up again in some way, shape, or form, you know. Okay, so 8 across, 2 teams, 11 players in each team. Is football, you know, giving it its proper name. None of this soccer stuff. We've got football. Of course, really good fitness. You know, I'm sure Hatham would vouch for that as well. I know Hatham does quite a lot of 5-a-side. I'm not sure if he does 11-a-side as well, but you know what? It's a different sport altogether. 11-a-side against 5-a-side, but they're both really good sort of. Good for working your agility because you've got to change direction quite a lot, you know, especially on a smaller pitch, 5-a-side, you might be up and down the court quite a lot more, you know, comes in really handy and not only sort of working for a longer duration, but at the same time, it's quite stoppy start sort of fitness. You know, you might work in a short burst and sprint to get onto a loose ball before a defender does. And then you might sort of, you know, have a bit of a breather. If the ball gets launched up the other pitch, you might have 30 seconds to catch your breath as you sort of walk back to the halfway line, whatever it's going to be. Then you might go again. You know, it's not like just running on the treadmill for half an hour, one foot in front of the other. It's very sort of stoppy start.
Yeah.
And it's going to develop different components of fitness, you know, which by now we're getting our head around why different activities, why different sports are going to actually develop different components as well. Okay, and number 9 across includes breaststroke, front crawl, and butterfly. With swimming, one that I've already mentioned this morning. It's a really good weight bearing exercise. You know, if you sort of, I've had people in the past that have come to me in the gym and said, look, I need to lose 2-3 stone before I can go and have a heart bypass surgery or before I can go and have this operation done. Now, the best thing for them, if they're carrying a little bit of extra weight, isn't necessarily right. Get yourself out for a run, get yourself out for a walk every day, tuck jumps on the spot, you know what I mean? It's going to put a lot of strain through back, ankles, hips, knees, that sort of thing. Yeah. Whereas swimming works really well because the weight takes, the water, takes your weight and you're just working against the resistance of the water. So it makes it a lot more manageable. At the same time, it can help develop balance as well. I think I mentioned before, there was a blind lady that I used to train and I was working on balance with her, you know, on and off of balance boards, stuff like that. And what I actually did, that gym at the time had a swimming pool. I was in like more of a leisure centre sort of gym. So I said, look, for today's session, we're going to actually go in the pool. And you know them sort of floats that you can get, sort of like the buoyant floats that you push to the bottom and they'll just shoot to the surface. I took one of them in and got her to stand on one of them, because naturally it's going to try and rise to the surface. And all she was doing, obviously, no eyesight to help out, no sort of point of reference, no visual point of reference at all. She was just getting used to adjusting on the spot to those little movements that the board trying to pull off. And in the end, you know, that was getting much easier for her. And at the same time, you know, she's working shoulders, she's working hips, working against the weight of the water as well. And that was some of the training that we did that she probably got the most out of, actually.
Yeah, of course.
You know, in terms of the balance, because to somebody who doesn't have a visual point of reference on stuff, you know, balance work in the end made the difference between her being able to sort of carry a tea into the living room by herself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the day she told us that, I'll always stick with us, because that was the day I was like, okay, there's more to this job than just getting people looking good.
Yeah, I know, changing people's life, innit?
Yeah, because I got into PT through being keen on the gym myself, doing sort of hypertrophy sort of stuff, strength stuff, endurance sort of stuff.
It's like,
yeah, go on, man.
It's like a physiotherapy aspect, kind of, really, isn't it? It's like you know, because you kind of you're doing stuff that's like changing. It's beyond like helping her kind of fitness level or like body composition. It's actually kind of helping her life. You know, it's actually like helping her with like stuff that's gonna, you know, ultimately change the quality of life. So that's, you know.
Yeah, that's it. You know what? Like when I had a client, got the personal best. on the squat, on the deadlift, I was always psyched. I was always psyched for them. You know what, as you would be, and so were they. But I don't care how much weight you can lift in the gym at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? Like I do it and did it because I want the other 95% of your life when you're outside of the gym to just be so much sort of richer and to be better and to be more fulfilling. And like when I started to hear about stuff happening in the gym was helping outside the gym. That's what really sort of gave me a buzz. And sort of really reminded me that I was and sort of proved to me that I was in the right job and doing what I wanted to be doing. You know, like I say, as exciting as it is to see someone push through and get the extra reps or to get a personal best or to set a new time, even more so if that is specifically what they're training for. But at the same time, you know, when you're hearing about, you know what, I can go up the stairs without losing my breath. I can chase my grandkids around the garden now without needing a minute. That's the sort of stuff that made it for me. And that was why I did what I did, and that's why a lot of PTs do what they do. Just getting caught up with a chat there. Susan, morning, Sue. Any idea when the pools reopen? I'm not entirely sure, actually. I'll have a little bit of a look. When we've done all of these, I'll have a look before we spin on to the next slide.
Yeah, interested.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's going to be a case of, because what they did last year was a case of you can go in and you can you had to get changed at poolside, I think, or had to get dry at poolside. The changing rooms were pretty much off limits. Certainly in some of the swimming pools and swimming baths that I was getting feedback on at the time. Yeah. Not to say that was all of them. I don't know how they were working, but of course they need to stay on top of cleaning changing rooms and stuff like that, because it's damp. It's a warm facility. It's just a breeding ground for sort of virus and bacteria, you know. So we're going to need to be on the ball, and we need to make sure that the facilities themselves are on the ball as well. Do you know what? Like, it'd be nice to be able to have a swim. You know, it's been something that I used to do a lot of in the sea when I used to do my scuba diving. Yeah. I was at the time I was probably more natural in the water than on land, to be honest. you know, I was part goldfish out diving Saturday, Sunday every weekend. But you know what? I like, even after the gym, just being able to go in, have a steam room, have a sauna, have a swim. Man. Do you know what I mean? It's a game changer, you know.
Dude, I can't stress that enough. How like good, like I used to do that exactly, dude. I would do like a weight session or a cardio session. I'd do I'd have a shower, do like a 15-minute kind of cool down in the swimming pool, and then I would go in the steam room or the sauna for like 15-20 minutes, and then I would wash off again, and then that would be it. But like that end bit of doing that little bit of swimming and then having the sauna, I felt like that was like, you know, I might as well have been doing steroids, because the recovery was so good that it just felt insane. Yeah. Like, and honestly, like all my DOMs and my aches and that, it felt like it was just helping so much, because like all that blood that had been pumping around my body, it was just kind of easing it out, and it's insane, mate. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Obviously pulling toxins out in the sweat, lactic acid, all of that sort of thing as well. But you know what? It's mindfulness as well. It's mental well-being. Like, I always saw the gym session as for my body, and then like, I'm having half an hour for my mind afterwards to sit in a dark steam room. And you know, I fell asleep in there once. I fell asleep in the steam room, mate. I don't know how they didn't find me like a little dried up sponge like the next day or something. I'd gone in between sessions. I had like a morning session and an afternoon session. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have a steam room. I had a bit of a cold, so I put some vape. My chest went in, laid myself down there, and I was out for about 45 minutes. I was absolutely ghost.
You could die doing
dangerous. Cannot recommend. Do not do. Will not repeat.
It could happen though. I could see how that could happen. Like it's always
so relaxing, man. It's so chilling.
But like, it's funny as well, because it's like in the sauna, it's like there's the different like seats, man, and like the higher you go up, the hotter it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
definitely.
You feel like risking it. I'm going to go up the next level, and then as soon as you go up, you're like, I've done that before, where I'd went up like a level, but then I'm in with like a bunch of people, and I don't want to look like a wuss, because I just ran up and I'm like, no, it's way too hot actually, so I don't want to go straight back down again, because everyone's going to think like, I couldn't hack it. So just like take it for like 10 minutes, like, oh no, like
this is a mistake. This was a mistake. Yeah, definitely. And I've noticed it in like the steam room and the sauna as well. You can be like, when you're up on the gym floor, you might be talking to everybody. Do you know what I mean? How are you doing? How's your set going? What's happening? In the steam room, it's like, everyone's quiet
I
time,
know.
innit? You know what I mean?
But
Different story in the steam room.
it's intense as well how like intimate it is, because when you're in the sauna, like there could be like a bunch of blokes in like like every single word of their conversation you hear, because it's such like the acoustics of the room, and it's such a
Yeah,
small room usually.
yeah.
You know, obviously in a gym you're never gonna get a massive sauna, and it's just so funny. And it's like literally like I was just sat there, and the amount of times like people have like a full conversation, you just sat listening to it. Like,
Yeah, I was just saying this. Sue says SpongeBob SquarePants. Yeah, I would have been SpongeBob SquarePants, like if they're the founders, definitely. But yeah, it is interesting. Like I've opened the sauna before, and there's two blokes having a conversation, and you go in, and the conversation just doesn't resume again. It's like,
yeah, it's all good, isn't
oh
it?
yeah, it really is. It really is. But you know what, man? It's so good for your or I found it anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's not for everybody, if you've got conditions
I
or
mean,
sort of high blood pressure and stuff like that. But it's so good. But even just the swimming and the shower afterwards, you know what I mean? Really good exercise in itself. But I find really good for that mindfulness and that
totally.
calming as well.
I mean,
Definitely.
I had a big thing. Like I think I mentioned it before, but like obviously it's a part of. And Gary's in the chat. Gary will know about this because he's got mates in Finland. It's a huge part of Finnish culture. Is like saunas and steam rooms in
Yeah.
Helsinki. They've got a sauna in Burger King. It's the only
No
Burger
way, really.
yeah, it's the only Burger King with a sauna. It's disgusting. You can have your Burger King in the sauna, and but yeah, they've actually
Just
got a
pull the
sauna.
sweat straight out. Yeah, you just
Yeah,
pull the fat straight out.
they've
Yeah.
got a sauna in a Burger King in Helsinki. But anyway, it's a huge part of their culture, and they did like a test over 20 years, like a peer-reviewed journal, like a full-on like kind of a test thing, and basically they found that like it's just so good for you, because it's to do with like heat shock proteins and cold shock proteins. It's the same. You get cold shock proteins when people do ice baths and stuff, and that's why athletes do that.
Yeah.
But there's a similar also heat shock proteins that you get from sauna and so on. And like they found out that like it reduces the risk of Alzheimer's by like over 60%.
Well, believe
They,
that. Yeah.
they did this test on hundreds of men aged like 40 to 60 over 20 years, and it reduces the risk of like heart problems and just all cause mortality as well. So it's like
Mhm.
it is really good for you, but it's hard
Yeah.
to get access. Not everywhere has a sauna, so it's
Yeah. They seem to be dwindling as well.
mhm.
The like I say, the gym I used to work down in Sedgefield, it was in a converted church. That was pretty cool actually, and one of the rooms had a sauna in it.
Yeah,
So it was like it came with a sauna, and the aim eventually was to obviously have it and offer it to gym members and stuff like that. But what we were finding was, because the gym only had like a few people in at a time, it was just costing a fortune to
I
run it all
bet.
day.
Yeah,
And if you couldn't just flick it on for one person that said, "Oh mate, I fancy you go in the sauna," because it
yeah,
takes forever to heat up. Do
yeah,
you know what I mean? So in the end, we actually had to get rid of it. So yeah, they are sort of few and far between at the minute. But you tend to find like your leisure centres might have one and stuff like that. I'm not sure what the crack is over in Sunderland, but that's something that we're going to talk about today as well. Research and stuff that's local to you guys. Obviously, I've got a bit better of an idea what's going on over Durham way, because that's where I'm based. Although the gym that I used to work in is along Wessington Way, DW Fitness, just the other side of the River Wear from
yeah.
Savvy Towers. Right along down towards the A19, and that had a steam room. That was the one I fell asleep in. And the swimming baths. Yeah, but they are still available. It is just a case of, again, can you pay as you go? Do you need a membership? Do you need a swimming membership? Are you paying for a full gym membership that has everything in, just to use a steam room once a week or something like that? So again, cost is something that we're going to be thinking about going forward, because our aim as we move out of lockdown and come away from restrictions is to try and identify barriers that are in our way to being more active and remove them pretty much. That's the
Yeah.
plan. That's what we're going for anyway. And we'll get there. Right, so we've got one more to do for across 7 players. Each player has their own position, no walking with the ball. Took me a bit of thinking about this one, but it is netball. It is
Right.
netball, and that is the Mel Machiavelli coming through. Because obviously Mel loves her netball. Really good fitness. I didn't realize how tiring it would be for a sport where you don't move with the ball. Do you know what I mean? But it's all off-ball movement.
Yeah.
And again, I know you follow the basketball as well. We both like a bit of basketball. Some of the off-ball stuff is the most important stuff.
Totally.
Where especially when it comes down to these competition sports and
100%.
stuff like that. It is really, really good fitness. And do you know what? Like, of course, if the other team's got the ball and they're progressing up the court or up the field, you're gonna have to run back. Unless you're Shaq, unless you're Shaquille O'Neal. The aim is to get back and provide the old defense. But it is really good fitness. And do you know what? It adds that element of fun as well, doesn't it? Same as football, same as basketball. Maybe you do focus better and you prefer to sort of get your exercise in a competitive sort of atmosphere or a competitive environment, because I know going to the gym for some people, just trying to lift heavier weights than last week doesn't really appeal to their mindset. It's not just about beating yourself. It's some people prefer like the idea of beating other people, and maybe sports is your sort of forte in that case, because when it comes to weightlifting, you can't focus on beating other people because you hurt yourself. You really will, so we can do a mix of both. There's nothing to say that we can only pick one form of fitness that we're going to do. You can have a mix of both, but again, maybe you do prefer sort of like that competitive sport sort of aspect to it. I know that there's Soccer Arena at Durham, where there'll be organised football games, stuff like that. There's one called, I think, Goals in Barnes Park, or it was when I was teaching there anyway. Sort of like an indoor football arena, that sort of thing. But you know what? There's no harm in trying to find just find a bit of grass and go and have a bit of a kickabout. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? To take your mates over. Me and one of my cousins, actually, obviously I haven't seen him for the last year. He's getting into basketball a little bit. We've actually talked about going down and just finding just like a hoop and just shooting some hoops and just running around. You know what I mean? Get a day where there's some nice weather, go out, get a bit of fresh air and change it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be a strictly sort of sporting competition or a match or a game. It can just be going and having a bit of a kick around and enjoying yourself. If walking counts as exercise, anything like that's going to count as exercise as well, and doesn't necessarily have to be viewed as exercise, which I think puts some people off. If you're thinking, I've already got exercise to do, it can be a little bit daunting. But if it's like, I've got football, I've got 5-a-side at 8 o'clock at night, you might look forward to that a little bit more. Again, depending on your mindset and your mentality. Sue says it's on the retail part, used to be called Springs. Yeah, that was the one I used to work at. DW now, isn't it? Used to be called Springs. Got closed for Legionnaire's disease, I think. That was Legionnaires in the water and in the pool, because that was something that obviously us being in the same facility, that was something that we always had to be monitoring and keeping on top of. Yeah, but it is just along Wessington Way. Sue says used to umpire netball matches, kept me real fit. Do you know what? Sometimes the officials on these sports are just as fit as the athletes. Do you know what I mean? If you see a linesman running down like the side of a football pitch, if you've got a particularly fast striker or a winger or something like that, you've got to be in the right position to see the action. Football referees, sort of linesmen, like I say, umpires, be it whatever sport you're officiating, you've usually got to be pretty fit as well. Do you know what I mean? To keep up with the action, to keep up with the play, and just make sure that you're giving good feedback. You don't see many overweight referees, umpires, that sort of thing, because do you know what? Not only are they doing it day to day, or sort of as their job and as their vocation, they're doing the training for that as well. So yeah, they have to. So that's a really good point, Sue. Even just keeping up with the action can keep you fit, without necessarily needing to be doing the sport itself. Right, guys. So the down ones. So we've got a bit like walking, but a lot faster. We've got running. I know that a load of the media savvy crew did a load of running last weekend. That looked absolutely brutal. I was with them in spirit. Again, I was down here wrestling a little furry shark that just wants to bite everything in the living room at the minute, and I couldn't get there for that one. But do you know what? Those guys will tell you 4 miles every 4 hours. I mean, 4 miles an hour is pretty good walking pace, So realistically, you think to yourself, I could maybe go just over the speed of a normal walk, do an hour's walking and have 3 hours off. Tell you what, you ask them guys that did that, and 3 hours isn't enough recovery time by the time you've done 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. It's so much hard work running. It really is. There's not much body fat on Mo Farah, on Usain Bolt. Of course, they're doing it all the time and they are best in the world. But for the right person, you can burn a lot of calories when you're running. The one thing that I would mention with running is, if you're not necessarily trying to get better at running, do you need to be running, would be the question I would ask. Because it is a lot of impact if you're out on the concrete, on your knees, on your ankles, again on your lower back. And if you're doing that just in the name of burning extra calories, can you do some resistance training to burn those calories as well and save your body that impact, that shock? Because of course all your joints, your knees, the end of your bones have got a little bit of cartilage that kind of works as like a shock absorber. And sooner or later they wear down. My dad actually ended up getting he got keyhole surgery in his knee through damage that I'm convinced he did running on concrete. And in the end, all he did was he squatted down to feed the goldfish. And couldn't get back up. His knee just locked. And what the doctors had said is his cartilage had opened up, popped over, and just wouldn't go back. And it was all from I think he played five-a-side for years. He was always quite active. But I tell you what, going out for 5, 10, 15-mile runs on concrete certainly doesn't help. And if you go on.
Yeah, I think it's bad on a treadmill as well, because I think that when you run outside, obviously concrete is unforgiving and it's not going to have any give. But in like trails and stuff, there's like a natural incline which your foot adjusts to all the time. Whereas on a treadmill, it's just constantly flat, so you're constantly just hitting on that flat surface. So again, that can also be bad for people's feet.
Yeah, definitely. You're not getting that. Running on a treadmill will only translate so far to running in real life for exactly that reason, buddy, because you're not doing it exactly. You're only really getting better at the thing that you do. So you're getting better at running on a treadmill, and treadmills are getting better at shock absorbers, and trainers are getting better. You can even go and get a custom made shoe that's sort of ergonomically designed to your foot to match all of your contours, and where's your weight when you're standing and that sort of thing. It comes with a cost, and again, do you need to do that unless you're training to be better at running? Same again, I've got massive respect for somebody who can go out and do a part run, a Great North Run, even a half marathon or a full marathon or something like that. But again, if you're training for that, you're going to need to do loads of running. If you're not training for something like that and you're training to be fitter, healthier, work your heart and lungs a little bit more, again, can we look at resistance training circuit and actually take some of that running out, or maybe knock it back to one of the next exercises that we're going to look at, which is just walking. Walking might actually be better for you, although it might take longer. You might be better off going out on a 2-hour walk than going on like a half an hour sprint, just for the impact on your legs. So yeah, just thinking about that with running. You see a lot of people out running because they feel like it's the way to get fit. We've all seen the Rocky montage. It's like, oh, that's the way we get fit. We go for a run, rain or shine. We go for a run. We maybe get up and drink a couple of raw eggs, and that's not the way it's got to be. If you're like I say, if you're just trying to be fitter, healthier, maybe lose a little bit of weight, you don't necessarily need to be going out and doing a load of running. Although it has been something that's been available to us for the last year when a lot of stuff hasn't been. So there's a lot could be said for that as well. Okay, and number 2 down, you can score 3 points if you shoot from far away. I'm sure we both know this one, buddy, is the old basketball. The fitness, and I don't know if it's just because I follow it a little bit more than the rugby, and I've never really followed tennis or anything like that, but the fitness on the NBA guys, mate, is absolutely insane. The conditioning, you go back and you look at some of the training that Kobe Bryant was doing in his 10th year in the league, and you know what, he was just running the socks off of rookies. Do you know what I mean? Just rooks that are coming into their first season, and Kobe's running rings around them. Do you know what I mean? I saw one where what he would do, he would pretty much get all of his teammates to line up in a row, and they'd all have a basketball, or they would all have a turn with a basketball, and they would just dribble at him, and he would just defense, and he would just track them back to sort of the half court line. And then he'd be like, right, next guy, I'm going to run forward and meet this next guy. Like the next guy doesn't wait for him to get there. The next guy moved forward and Kobe's on him straight away, followed him up to the halfway line again. And he did the whole team, man. He did the whole roster. And you just look and you're going like, this was a guy that was 30 at the time, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Which is knocking on for basketball, but the fitness in it is absolutely insane. It is really sort of stop start. It's end to end. You know, you might get up into you might get on the fast break and you've got to follow up and give your teammates support on the offensive side. You know, the shot might miss it, the rebound lands with the defender, and you're back up the other end to do it all again. You know, it's so stoppy start. You know, you realise what's the shot clock? 24 seconds. How much can go on in one shot clock? How much movement? You know, it's no wonder that they get the timeouts. It's no wonder the players can come off the pitch and then or off the court and then go back on. You know, because you'd have to do it, and then you get some absolute beasts. You know, you get like your LeBron James that'll go out and do 48 minutes.
Oh,
a
yeah,
night.
yeah. Well, that's it, man.
12 minutes a quarter for 10 years.
As you're saying, you got to think that it's you're totally right. It's a game which is constant action, non-stop, and there's less players, so it's like there's so much more focus on the players. So it's like in a basketball game, you know, in a football game, you might get a player who play, you know, full time. A lot of players play full time. Even sometimes players will play full time, extra time if it's a certain competition. But in basketball, you rarely ever get a player who plays the full duration of the match because it's just that intense all the time.
Yeah.
Even the key player probably won't play the full match. They'll be getting rotated in and out. I mean, you've got rotating subs, which is obviously one of the reasons that, you know, it's easy to do that because you have the ability to rest them and bring them back on. But still, it's like it's just so intense, you know.
It really is. It really is, you know. And like you say, like you get to the point where certainly the playoffs where you've got like your main 5 starters playing like the full 48 minutes or certainly like a couple of those starters playing the full 48 minutes, not to mention overtime if it goes there. Like because with basketball there's no such thing as a draw, is there? Do you know what I mean? You can get the end of the time.
It could go to triple OT.
And it goes.
It's like
triple overtime, and you're just like, oh man, I'm tired watching them.
Yeah.
Absolutely knackered watching them. But you know what? Even some of the drills that they do, some of the training, you take the basketball away, and some of that training could be so beneficial to pretty much everybody. In just the cardio, the endurance, the agility training, the balance. You know, I actually did used to take some of the more cardio-based drills, be it cones, that sort of thing, shuttle sprints. I used to take them and do them in my PT. You know, lifted straight from the NBA sort of training book. And we used to do them in PT because they're just hard work because they got to be.
You see some of these like YouTubers and that who are like really amazing at shots, or they're really good at layups and stuff like that. They've got like all the flair. But then you see like there's some videos of them doing the NBA training, and it's like when they're exhausted, it's like, can you still make the shot then? And that's the difference. It's like they might be really accurate with the shots and stuff, but these athletes are able to make these shots when they're absolutely exhausted under pressure, and it's like you've got someone on you and you've already been running around the whole time, and then it's just a different kettle of fish completely.
It really is, yeah, it really is. And of course, basketball over here isn't probably the most accessible. Do you know what I mean? If you were to say to yourself, fancy shooting some hoops at the weekend, I'm going to try and get myself down for a competitive league. It's really hard to get into, you know. But of course, again, if that sort of thing does appeal to you, if that is the sort of thing that you like, get yourself down the local park, and if there's a basketball hoop, take your own ball down and just have a bit of run around. Because for every one that you're missing, you've got to go and get the ball back. That's exercise. And when you're not very good at the start, you will be chasing the ball around quite a lot.
Yeah,
definitely. Saying I can't wait to get the dog trained to bring us the ball back, whether I miss or not. Just stand at the back of the garden, throw some Hail Marys up, and just get him to go and get the ball back for as safe as the effort.
That's it, like that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's get the rest of these finished up. So we've got number 3, exercising on a bike. Would be cycling. You know, again, really good if you do prefer to get out, see the sights, get the fresh air. Especially get the vitamin D after the last year of being there. Maybe he's locked down, cooped up, depending on what your circumstances have been, you know. But cycling was a really good one. Cycling was what my dad went to after running, because that was when I'd said to him, like, your knee shot, like you've already had KO surgery in one, you don't need it in the other. I understand you want to get outside, because I've never really, bar a warm up or a cool down, I've never really seen the appeal of going to the gym, driving to the gym, to sit on a stationary bike that doesn't go anywhere, to watch yourself going around like, I've done 1 lap, I've done 2 laps, I've done 3 laps, you know, when really, of course, the cost of a bike is something else to think about. But if that is all you want to do, you don't have to pay for a membership.
Exactly.
You know, if you just want to be cycling sooner or later. I mean, Gary talked about it yesterday in the drop-ins. You're not paying for a gym membership every month. You know, what's that, 20, 30 quid every month that you could put towards, you know, maybe whatever it is that you do want to do. You know, get yourself on Gumtree, something like that. Can you pick yourself up a second-hand bike and just get yourself into cycling a little bit more over the summer? Hopefully now that I know the last week's been a little bit up and down with the weather, and we've had snow over this way, but, you know, hopefully the ice is going, the frost's going, and we'll be able to get out on our bikes a little bit more safely, because, of course, over the winter when there's ice, especially black ice on the roads and on the ground, cycling's not maybe the best thing for us to be doing, but I would put running in the same category as well. You know, if you can slip off a bike and hurt a wheel, you can slip over and snap an ankle very easily. Sure. So that's definitely something. But again, something that we could be looking forward to doing a little bit more over the summer as the weather improves, and we can get out and about a little bit more. Maybe you just want to go further than the same streets or the same walks that you've done for the last year. You know, I can get out and I can walk and do 3 miles, or I could jump on a bike and go and do 10. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
As restrictions lift, it might be nice to cycle into Durham or something like that, you know, and have a little bit of a change of route. But yeah, of course, if you've ever done a spin class, you'll know how hard cycling can be. Again, you know, they're slightly different, but it's a similar sort of movement, you know, sort of simulating resistance that you might get going up a hill. You know, chances are if you see somebody getting off the bike and pushing it on a hill, because it's hard work. You know, it's hard work on an incline. So again, cycling can be a really good way of getting the old heart and lungs working. And if you've ever seen the Tour de France guys, you look at the legs on them and the calves on them. It's so good for muscle strength, muscle endurance. Yeah. Like some of them could like sort of bend their knee and flex their hamstring and have like a bicep there. It's ridiculous.
Smash a watermelon, just.
Yeah. Just sheer power, like it really is. And you see them at the end of the race when they've got obviously the dilation of the veins going on, and the veins are at the surface. Like it's next level. It really is. And that's not to say any of you guys are going to run off and start training for the Tour de France anytime soon. Again, let me know if you do. But at the same time, it just shows you sort of how strenuous and how good a workout cycling can be. Number 4, we had Latin, salsa, ballet, all dance or dancing. You know, again, you look at any of the professional dancers. If you watch Strictly, Dancing with the Stars, anything like that, if you watch your Britain's Got Talent and you're looking at dance troupes and stuff like that, chances are they're going to be in relatively good health, you know, and relatively good fitness, you know, be it sort of strength to lift their partner up, or the cardio fitness just to get the steps in and move around and to keep up with the beat. It's really good fitness. You know, how often have you been on a night out and you've had a couple of bevies, and, you know, you've been at a family wedding and you've been sort of swinging your pants and having a bit of a boogie, and you've got to sit down and have a minute. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's all movement. It's all movement, and sort of non-exercise movement is something that I talk about quite a lot. And of course, dancing, if you're enjoying yourself, is absolutely amazing. Even if you're just having a little bit of a shuffle around the kitchen when you're cooking your tea or something like that, you know, it's all movement that's going to burn more than just sort of standing on the spot. But again, there's proper dance classes out there. You know, there are fitness classes that are designed to be more sort of dancey, be it sort of like a Zumba or something like that. And then you can go and actually get actual dance classes if you want to get better at dancing. That's just going to bring your fitness through a lot, like a lot more as well. You know, doing one will sort of bring the fitness with it as well. You know. Okay, so number 5, I just mentioned stationary bike fitness class is spin. You know, very very close to cycling, but again, depending on the instructor, it might be run differently. I used to do it all to the beat of the music. It was all choreographed, you know. It would be okay. When the chorus kicks in, we're going to turn the resistance up and stand up and really pedal and get our weight over the pedals. If we get a bridge or a breakdown or a gap, you know, we'll drop that resistance off and have a little bit of recovery. And like I say, that last 90 seconds of Paradise City where I'm saying just sprint, just keep going. You know, sometimes having that other motivation there and other people doing the same thing as well. It's like, oh, he hasn't stopped, she hasn't stopped, so I'm not going to stop yet. You know, sometimes that can really work and play on that and really tap into that sort of competitive drive as well. Number 6, 1 foot in front of the other, can usually cover 3 miles an hour. Your average sort of speed, I mentioned a minute ago, is walking. You know, probably the thing that all of us have maybe done the most over the last year, just because it is just the most accessible, and it's sort of like the less restricted. You know, really, really good fitness. I don't think a lot of people realize how many calories you can burn on a good walk. Yeah, like you go out for 10, 15 minutes, not so much, but you're still going to get that metabolism spike and you're still doing something. You go out on a 2-hour hike or a ramble, I come back starving. Do you know what I mean? I always come back ready for some food.
Yeah,
I feel like I've worked.
It does.
It really does. Like, you can do so much. Like, I've gone and done it before. I've gone and done an hour's walk on an empty stomach before, thinking, do you know what? It's just an hour. I'll get breakfast when I get back, and regretted it so much within half an hour. Within half an hour, I was like, oh, I should have eaten something. That's where that sort of like your trail mix will come in handy, you know, be it like your raisins and your nuts and stuff like that. Maybe you've taken a protein bar with you. You know, hikers and ramblers take food with them for a reason, because it is so sort of calorie consuming and energy consuming.
Definitely.
And of course, over the last year, maybe you've realised that yourself. And again, that'd be interesting to know if that has been your main form of exercise for the last year. How are you feeling in yourself? You know, are you feeling sluggish and lethargic compared to when you could get in the gym, or are you able to sort of substitute that and feel like you're keeping on top of your fitness and stuff like that as well? So that'd be interesting to know. And number 7, you need an oval-shaped ball to play this sport. Is rugby. I could never get my head around an oval-shaped ball. To me, the word ball means round. I don't know whether that's just growing up with football and tennis and racket, and that's maybe just me being a little bit daft. But at the same time, like, mate, like the agility on those guys, not only have you got to sort of avoid other players that are pretty much trying to run through you at full speed, you've got to be able to read the bounce on the ball before it lands and be where the ball's going to be. And with an oval ball, that's nigh on impossible. I never figured it out. Doing rugby and PE, it for me, I'd go to grab it, I'd go where I think it was going to be, and it'd bounce off in the other direction. Like, just killing itself.
Well, the Americans call American football because it's a foot long, right? It's like a football, isn't that? Is that right?
Is that where it comes from? Is that where it comes from? Do you know, I always wondered. I just thought it was there, just adamant that they weren't calling soccer football. I was just like, yeah. But do you know what they call it? Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you know what? That's really interesting, mate. Do you know, it makes sense.
I've heard that.
It would make sense because, of course, even the sport itself really is sort of measured in sort of driving like distance down the field and stuff like that. It's like, if we can get X amount of feet or yards down the line, down the field, you know, this will be a good. Do you know? I don't even know what they call it. What they would call a play in basketball. You know, while the ball's live. Do you know what?
They would call it play. Yeah, I think play something.
With the it's still the playbook, isn't it? They still have the playbook.
Yeah.
So like in this play, if we can get 10 yards down the field, that's what we're going for. You know, that's a success. But again, you know, there's a lot to be said for the motivating factors behind somebody just trying to sprint through you as hard as they can. It always used to get me in PE as someone that was always like a smaller build, quite petite. I was always nippy and I was hard to get hold of. But when the bigger guys caught up with us, like, I knew about it. At the end of the day, like it was one of them. You seen Doctor Strange where he gets like palmed in the chest and gets like palmed out of his own body, knocks his spirit out of his own body. That's how I felt when some of the bigger guys got hold of us in rugby, mate.
I've never been good at anything like that.
No, do you know what? I was always more of a footballer. I was a fullback. I was a defender. I'd get down the wing and I'd get back. My fitness would let me do that. Rugby, I tell you what, if I've just been smashed in the ribs, like I'm in no rush to get back and start the whole thing again. Like I got to the point where I realised rugby wasn't necessarily for me. But of course, that it's quite big in this country. I didn't realise, especially growing up, going and just playing football every weekend. Like I didn't realise that sort of like rugby leagues, not necessarily rugby league as in the sport and the sort of the what do you call it, sort of like the body behind it, you know, sort of like the Premier League does with football. You've got rugby union, you've got rugby league as well, but there are sort of friendly competitive rugby matches available on weekends that with a little bit of digging, you know, you might realize that there's more available in the area than you realize, you know. And some people I just naturally more suited towards something like rugby.
Oh, of course,
you know.
body type,
again, thinking about our body types, you know, our maybe our endomorphs might be, you know, depending on what position you're going to play, or your mesomorphs, you know. You look at Johnny Wilkinson was always viewed as quite a slim, petite rugby player, wasn't he? He was
Yeah.
never the stockiest guy out there. And then you put him next to Joe Public, and you realise just how built he actually is.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit of an eye opener, but like I say, it's really good fitness. And again, if you like that competitive edge, then you know, rugby might be something to look into, certainly in the area. And again, when that's going to be available again, and when we can go back to that. So that was number 7. Number 11, small green ball, 2 rackets, sometimes played on grass, is tennis.
Yes.
And tennis again is really good for agility, sort of changing direction. You know, your opponent might line up like he's going to hit the ball one way, and you're expecting it to be in one place. He changes his shape at the last second and hits it into the other side of the court. And you've got to get all the way across there and sort of make up for that as well. I found tennis was really good for that sort of thing. Squash is absolutely amazing because, like, not only have you got to get out of the way of it because it hurts if it hits you, but like, I used to play it with my dad again, and he used to make out that he was going to whack it as hard as he could. So I'd stand right back at it, and then I'd wait for it, and he'd tap it, mate. He'd absolutely just tap it. And it hit the wall and it dropped dead, and I'd fall into the wall trying to get there in time to hit it, man. You know, the fitness that you need, like, again, you go and have like just a couple of rounds of squash, tennis, badminton, you don't realize something like a shuttlecock that spends so long in the air because it's so floaty. You don't realize how much you've got to adjust to get into the right place to hit it back. So anything like that, any racket sports are amazing fitness just for moving your feet. The cardio aspect, and normally quite good for your core as well because there's twisting involved. You know, as you're hitting, you know, you're bringing your shoulders in to get power in, unless you're doing an absolute sneakers trick like my dad used to do and just tap it. Do you know what I mean? There's no need. There's absolutely no need. Make a guy sprint around like that. But any of them racket sports are going to be really good at sort of like your agility, your endurance, that sort of stop and start sort of fitness. So again, straight away, there's so much out there and so much available. You know, it is just a case of what is available, how and where. You know, which is where you guys are going to come in and actually do a little bit of research and go and look at. You know, is there rugby available near me? Where's the nearest basketball hoop? You know, where could I go for dance classes if I wanted to, or what could I do in the gym to help me get fitter at dancing? You know, or for that sort of thing.
It's
not
a bad app. I don't know if that app exists already, but that's a pretty good idea, that, isn't it? If you could make it like moderated, but you could have it user based, so like users could like put where the basketball hoops are and stuff, and like I think that would be like a really good kind of app to have.
That would be pretty cool, yeah. Do you know what? I don't know if there's anything out there, you know, sort of like an activity finder or something like that.
Yeah.
That's something we might have to get onto ourselves at the old Savvy Towers if that's going to be. That's something we could look at. I know Mel's done a little bit of coding as well. I've never even considered building an app, but do you know? That's it. Yeah, that could be one to do. You know, because like that's what I was thinking. You know, just before we spin on. You know, I know I've mentioned going and shooting a couple of hoops and stuff like that, but at the same time, I don't know where the nearest one to me is. You know, not to mention, is it a kids park? You know, am I gonna get there with my cousin, both of us the thick end of 30, and we get there and like, you know, there's kids playing on the swings and stuff like that, or there's kids trying to have a kickabout. You know, it's all stuff that you might want to think about. So that is something we could maybe look into, and something that is probably needed and would be a big help. You know, depending on who can get around to doing that.
Definitely.
You know, where is the nearest tennis court? How much does it cost to go and hire the rackets? Or, you know, if you've got your own rackets, do you need to hire the green? It can almost be like a compare the market sort of thing, where you can pull it up and say, right, this is cheaper for me, this is closer,
exactly,
you know, and be able to do it that way. That'd be a really good idea. That I think that'd be really helpful, even if it was just for the local area.
For sure, yeah.
But again, you know, if you guys go out and do a little bit of research and feed it back, It's all stuff that, of course, we can compile and put into one place, which is what I'm working on doing in one of the Monday drop-ins that we do. When we can do them in person, they're a little bit modified at the minute, but when we're in person, part of the drop-ins is going to be what we're going to called My Fitness Journey, which is going to be looking at what's available to you, which means that I need to and we need to be able to say, look, you can try swimming here. It costs this much for a month, or it costs this much pay as you go. I'd like to have that information to get straight out there. So again, as you guys are filling in your workbooks and getting a little bit of feedback, just think, it's potentially helping other people out down the line as well. So awesome job. Okay then, buddy. So we'll spin on to the next slide then. And just sort of have a deep dive into some of these other fitness classes and activities that we can do. So thinking these are going to be more what we class as sort of group exercise now.
Yeah.
We've mentioned some of them already. We've talked about some of them at length already. Spinning. Again, I was dead set that I didn't want to teach spin, but when I went and interviewed for a position at this gym, or the last gym I was in, they'd said, look, we really want the next guy that comes in as a PT to be able to do spin as well, because that's something that we'd like to be able to offer in terms of sort of competing against other gyms in the area and stuff like that. Like, we really want to offer a spin class. And I was a little bit reluctant, but it meant a full-time job for me to just say, yeah, go on then.
Yeah.
You know what? And exactly the same as what we were talking about at the start of the session. Getting it out of the way with and just doing it. And it never been as bad as you think it's going to be. Mate, I barely slept the night before my first spin class. Obviously, I was wanting to prove to the gym I could do a good job. I was wanting to prove to gym members that I used to other instructors that I could do a good job.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I got it done. I was like, do you know what? I'm glad that's out of the way with. And I started looking forward to the next one. And the way that I used to do it, and again, different instructors will do it differently. I used to use my music, or
Brilliant.
the majority of my music. Do you know what I mean? I would put in tracks that I was familiar with but wouldn't normally listen to.
Yeah.
Stuff like old noughties classics, like the old Bass Hunter and Cascada and stuff like that. You've got to have stuff like that in for a bit dance.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'd be putting stuff like Guns N' Roses in, AC/DC, Arctic Monkeys, all of that sort of thing, Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to the instructor. I would get feedback from members that were coming in. What sort of music do you like? Did you like that track? And again, a good instructor will plan his class around the people that are going to be coming in. I would sometimes have one spin class worked out, and certain people I was expecting to turn up wouldn't. I'd get other people that maybe like a different sort of music, so I just pull another one out and say, right, we'll run this one tonight then, because you're going to get more out of it, But again, different instructors will do it differently. Some instructors will walk around, make sure that you're turning your resistance up when you should. Well, and then you get the way I used to do it. I would be on the bike at the front of the class and just say, because not that I'm massively rhythmically inclined. I have got two left feet to an extent, but I haven't done as much drumming and as much music as I've done over the years. I had like a basic sense of rhythm where I could say, look guys, you don't have to understand the 1, 2, 3, 4 beat. Just pedal at the same rate that my feet are going. If you don't look at anything else, look at my feet, keep up with that beat. And if you stick with me and doing what I'm doing, then you can't go far wrong. Do you know what I mean? So again, different instructors will do it differently. Don't let one spin class give you like this sort of conception that all spin classes are going to be like that, because that won't be the case. And it's the same with all of these as well. You'll find that ones that are branded like MetaFit, like Zumba, and like Insanity will normally come with pre-planned sessions.
Yeah.
Body Pump used to be the same when me and Mel used to do it. It'd come with, right, this is your song, these are your exercises, this is the route, or this is the progression route that you're going to do them through. So really, I just had to be familiar with that to teach the Body Pump class. But at the same time, I needed to be able to keep an eye on that to teach the Body Pump class. Whereas if I'd made it up in my head and had an idea in my head, it might be a little bit easier to just sort of follow. So with stuff like that, normally, each session will be different. But if you go to leg session 1 for Insanity with one instructor, leg session 1 of Insanity with another instructor will be the same, because it's choreographed. They're pre-planned sessions. If you go to a leg session during yoga, just your bog standard yoga or circuit training, like I say, you might go somewhere else with a different instructor, and that might be laid out totally different. Like I sort of mentioned earlier on, what we used to call a boot camp.
Yeah.
You know, you'd go to 3 different boot camps and get 3 totally different experiences based on the instructors, and their style of doing it as well. So, with a lot of these classes, don't let one class make your mind up to that's how they're all going to be, because that's, especially with different instructors, that's not always going to be the case. You know. I used to put a different spin on stuff to Mel. I used to say, like, I wanted Mel's members and the members doing Mel's classes to recognize them as Mel's classes. But if I was going to do a carbon copy of what Mel would do, Mel might as well have just run it. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
It's pointless me coming in and teaching something if I'm just going to try and teach it exactly the way that somebody else would do it. You know, I would make sure to put a little bit of my own spin on things, and it keeps things fresh for the members as well. So yeah, try different instructors, try different classes, and don't let maybe one that you think, oh, I wasn't so keen on that, make your mind up for all of them, because the next class might be a total different story. Circuit training we've mentioned quite a lot in quite a broad sense, you know, in just the sense of a couple of exercises back to back. Maybe you might have different stations that you're going to work around for different times. You know, circuit training can be a lot of different things. Again, you might go to a circuit training class with one instructor at one gym, and it's going to be different to if you go somewhere else. But circuits generally tends to be really good at keeping your heart rate up, keeps you working, and they tend to be quite short as well. We used to run one that was, I think, 45 minutes tops, because again, if you're doing like 60 seconds, then you've got 20 seconds as you move to your next station. So what, you've only got 10 seconds to stand and breathe, really.
Yeah.
Once you've done that 3 times round, you're pretty pagged, to be honest. Yeah, you know, you're getting to the point where you think, yeah, I'm definitely done. Metafit class that we used to run was about 20-25 minutes, including the warm-up, because you really don't need to be working for much longer, just because of the intensity that's in there, you know. Zumba's one that I've never done. Again, you know, I was dead set for a while about not doing any classes at all, you know, which seems a little bit tough there. I just think Gary says Base Hunter Saturday. Base Hunter's a classic, man. You can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with a bit of Base Hunter, man. So Zumba was one that used to get taught in the gym that I used to work in, DW. And it was a little bit, I don't know what word I'm going to use. It was maybe a little bit flamboyant for my teaching style. Do you know what I mean? The old putting your hips into it, the old Brazilian dance, all of that sort of thing. It was always a little bit just kind of outside of my realm of where I felt like I was best. I would be always too busy thinking about what I was doing when it comes to dancing and not instructing other people, you know. So that wasn't one that was really good for me. But if you like your dancing to music and just moving to music and that sort of, I think it is like a Latin-y sort of music sort of vibe as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's again, it's dancing, but it's really good fitness. So yeah, maybe it's the idea of going on and loading up a load of dumbbells, or going station to station and doing medicine ball slams and kettlebell swings isn't for you. Something like a Zumba might be, you know, where you just go and dance and pretty much and just enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of different options out there. It's insane how many different options are out there, to be honest. Then we've got body pump. We've mentioned quite a lot. Metafit, we've briefly sort of touched on. Metafit again would be a branding one. It would be a licensing thing. We used to run a HIIT class, a high intensity interval training class, which is essentially Metafit, but without the name, without their plans, without their music, without their choreography. So of course we couldn't call it Metafit, but at the same time it was a similar sort of fitness. Now Metafit again is just so stoppy start. Like, you might work for 20 seconds, rest for 10, and then go back to the same exercise for 20 seconds, which doesn't sound that bad, but do it, you know. I think one of the sessions on the Media Savvy channel that I did was actually based on a sort of what we would call Tabata training, which is that 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off sort of training, in the principle that for those 20 seconds you bust a gut, you work as hard as you can for 20 seconds, not 10, not 15, not 17. You work as hard as you can for 20 seconds and then rest for 10. The aim is by that 10 seconds you are gasping for oxygen, not even necessarily water. You're trying to be just gasping for oxygen. And like I say, Metafit is very similar, because you know, again, keeping that heart rate up, we're going to burn so many more calories.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, for fat burn and stuff like that, those kind of interval trains, it's unreal.
Yeah. We used to do MetaFit into circuits, and if anybody tried to go from MetaFit straight into circuit training, I told them they hadn't done MetaFit hard enough.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm like, you don't need to take an hour out of your night, or an hour and 15 minutes in that case. You don't need to take over an hour out of your night to do MetaFit and hold back because you're thinking to yourself, oh, I've got circuits after this.
Yeah.
Just do MetaFit and base yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly,
Or if you'd
yeah.
rather do circuits, just do circuits and work as hard as you can. Like I used to say to people, like, I don't want to see your face on 3 classes back to back. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's nice to see you. I love that you're keen. I love that you're making progress and chasing your goals. If you're on my 3rd class in a row and I'm knackered, you're not working hard enough in the first 2.
Yeah,
Pretty much
yeah.
at the end of the day, it'd be like, do you know what? Next time I'm going to make sure you can't do this 3rd class. And it is a way to just paint a target on your back, like it really is. Certainly for an instructor that's trying to paggy you out,
Yeah,
definitely. But MetaFit, yeah, you want to just work as hard as you can and get it done. And one of the biggest selling points for MetaFit is that it's over in 25 minutes. You know, you might be able to do it at home, and then your whole exercise takes 25 minutes. You might need to get to the gym to do it, or a certain venue to do it, but then including your drive, you know, if you drive 5 minutes, the whole thing's 35 minutes start to finish, and you're back in the house done. You know, you haven't done a full day at work, and then you think to yourself, oh, I'm going to spend an hour and a half going and doing my legs now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I haven't got to now go and do MetaFit into circuits. Just go do MetaFit. You know, just go do MetaFit, pack yourself out, get yourself home, and you're done. You know, at the end of the day. I know that some of us are a bit of a glutton for punishment, and do just like to be beasted, but at the end of the day, you know, we want to be working as hard as we can in these sessions, not holding back because we've got 2 more classes to do straight afterwards. Aqua Aerobics is a really good one, certainly depending on where you are with your fitness. Sue, I feel like this one would be really good for you. I don't know if you've ever done it. It'll help obviously with joints and range of motion in your joints. Obviously the water takes your weight off your joints, so it makes it a little bit easier, but every movement you do has got extra resistance against it. So whereas you might think, oh, do you know what, that's going to be easier in the water because I'm not moving my weight, you know, you've got the resistance of the water to move against, you know. Even if it is sort of star jumps in water, mate, it's hard going.
Yeah, true.
Do you know what I mean? And not only that, but because you've sort of floating down to touch the bottom, that impact's not there as if you were stood in your living room just jumping on the spot, you know. Same again, thinking about knees, hips, ankles, all of that sort of thing. Aqua Aerobics, again, is designed to get your heart rate up and keep you burning, which is where the aerobic sense comes from. You know, that it works in your cardiovascular system. But at the same time, you know, it is really good for muscle definition and working against that water resistance as well. You know, so again, you know, maybe you like the idea of doing group exercise, but burpees isn't where you're at the minute, and even star jumps and squat jumps and whatever it might be. You know, aqua aerobics might be something you could look into and do, like I say, and just think about the exercise, knowing that you've not got all that impact on your joints. Okay, so LBT is legs, bums, and tums. You know, again, you might hear it called different stuff in different places. Pretty much, different gyms might run it differently. Legs, bums, and tums is exactly what it sounds like. Normally marketed more towards women, because legs, bums, and tums is the 3 areas that women would normally say to me, these are the areas that I want to work on when I join the gym. You know, it would be legs, bums, and tums. If there was one of those 3 missing, it would normally be down the back of the arm, or just where your bra strap sort of sits in your armpit. It would always be those 3, and then that 4th area there. So yeah, in that class you might find it's sort of more female dominant in terms of who's turning up to do it, but really good at isolating different muscle groups. You know, a lot of these classes have been sort of designed to keep your heart rate up and to keep you burning and not really focus on the muscular side of things, whereas legs, bums, and tums is, you know, you might do more isolated exercise which doesn't bring your heart rate up as much, but it might target a muscle and make it work a little bit harder, you know, be it even just being down on all 4s and doing like donkey kicks or kickbacks or stuff like that. You know, we're really isolating the glute, we're isolating the bum muscle, and we're able to really target it, you know, without necessarily being out of breath all the time, you know, which again in that context is really beneficial. You know, you can focus on your form and feeling that muscle squeeze and activate, rather than, oh my god, I can't breathe, you know, that sort of thing. You know, when you're going through burpees, it sometimes is just like deep breaths, hands on the floor, do the jump, get the next one done.
Oh man,
You
yeah.
know, when it comes to these isolation exercises, we can actually get a little bit more focus and try and make sure that the muscle that is meant to be doing the work is actually doing the work as well. So a little bit more of like a targeted class there, you know, called leg bums and tums for a reason. That's where we're working. That's where we're trying to hit. Yoga, mate. Yoga's one that I know that you've done quite a lot of. I know me and Alex have picked it up a little bit during lockdown as well. Do you know what? For something that I always looked at and thought of, I always used to think of just that old sort of sensei, you know, who just
Yeah.
who was in a piece one with the world, you know, airbenders, waterbenders, you know, that sort of thing. When really, you know, you don't need to be at that level to do it. But it's so hard to do well and make it look that easy. It really is.
I think it's kind of, it's a bit of a shame that meditation is a practice and yoga is a practice are kind of so tightly wed with spirituality, because I feel like
Yeah,
it's just an exercise, or like yeah, it's just an exercise. Both of those things are really really useful, but I feel like
yeah,
that is often a big drawback of it is that people think like it's a bit like new age kind of hippie thing. And
yeah, yeah,
because even meditation, like doing mindfulness practice, like just sat and like concentrating, like that's a really good practice in itself, and it doesn't have to have any kind of spiritual kind of context. You know what I mean? It's just, same with yoga though. It's like obviously that kind of stuff, when it's added onto it, it can be nice in its own way. But I think that
mhm.
it's just a shame that people feel like that you have to be connected to your chakras to want to do yoga, and it's like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know what I
You
mean?
got to sit there in your tie dye shirt and your bandana
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
with
So
the incense burning away in the
that's
corner, and
it.
that's
Yeah.
not that's not the case at all. You know, some classes. I'm trying to think now, but you might know. There are certain names of classes that are more like that. You
Yeah.
know, I've seen certain ones where it might be like you are thinking and doing that sort of. I heard a really good concept before, sort of. It's like mental housekeeping, or sort of like
Sure. Yeah.
mental cleaning. You know,
Hmm.
we take the time to get up every morning and brush our teeth, and it was this idea of brushing your mental teeth, if that makes sense,
Got it.
just a
Yeah.
few
Yeah.
minutes every day
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
sort of freshen up a bit, declutter a little bit. And like I say, I feel like that can go a really, really long way as a practice.
Definitely.
And is really important that we should be doing, because your mental health and your physical health are so linked, you know, as we're now sort of realizing and understanding, and certainly science and research is showing us more and more as things sort of progress. But like you say, just as an exercise, yoga is so good in terms of building
Undoubtedly, mate. Yeah.
especially balance, those stabilizing muscles that help you stand on just one leg, you know,
Yeah. Exactly.
like that sort of thing. You're working muscles standing on one leg that you're not working standing on two, you know, because you've got less stability, less points of contact with the floor, and your hips are trying to wobble around a little bit more. So yeah, tension. You know, I found that I move a lot better since I started doing yoga,
Yeah.
and my hamstrings are less tight, despite years of having like runner or footballers hamstrings.
Hmm.
You know, and they've always been tight. My posture feels a little bit better because I'm more conscious of it. And at the same time, you know what? The same could be said for any of these. You're taking time out of your day for yourself and your own
Totally. Yeah.
well-being and your own physical well-being, which is a massive thing, and should be sort of it should be applauded. Do you know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, it's not always the easiest. We don't always feel like doing it. Sometimes the motivation's there to do it. Sometimes we need the discipline to do it when the motivation deserts us. You know, as happens from time to time. But
Totally.
yoga, it's such a good one to do, and you can find them. Like we just use a free YouTube channel, and do you know what? I can go on and say, do you know what? My lower back's tight today. I've spent a lot of the day sat on the laptop. What can I do? Oh, there you go. There's a yoga session there for lower back and hamstring tightness. Bang on,
Got
15
it.
minutes. That's what I'm looking for, you know, and that'll do me. That'll be my 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be 40 minutes rolling around on the floor, like you say, in touch with your inner chakras and your yin and your yang sort of thing. But it can go a long way as the physical side of things. And I feel like I've seen it a little bit. I don't know, because there was a gym that I used to work in that used to have a little yoga studio on the side, and they would do the hot yoga. They would do the sort of like the meditative yoga. Then they
Hmm.
would do sort of like the yoga for posture. So I feel like we are sort of moving away from sort of like those spiritual sort of connotations and,
For sure.
and those sort of assumptions. I feel like we are getting there, and it is becoming a little bit more mainstream and a little bit less, like you say, a little bit less new age. Just for the old hippies, you know. But yeah, do you know what? It would be something that I always sort of scoffed at a little bit. You know, I was like, do you know what? I'm PT and I'm spinning 3 times a week. I'm training 5 times a week. You know, I'm having a good stretch off beforehand. Yoga's a little bit yoga's not quite at the level that I need to be training at for what I was doing. And do you know what, mate? It was so humbling.
Yeah.
It was so humbling. Them first couple of yoga sessions, it was like, oh, my body is not used to working like this. So by all means, give it a go. Definitely try it out. Especially if Sue, I know you've mentioned you're working on sort of like range in certain joints and stuff like that. If any of that's coming from muscle tension, stuff like yoga and stretching and stuff can only help. Definitely. Then the last class that we've got on here is stability ball class, which I don't know if you've ever seen them. It's like a big balloon pretty much. They're normally silver, sometimes they're blue, you can get them pink, different colors, and they're pretty much like a big bouncy ball, you know. You might have even seen them on like compilation videos where like 2 people will hold them and run into each other full whack, and somebody always comes off worse. Totally. Somebody always gets sent flying. But there's actually fitness classes used or based around using these. And of course, it is kind of just like a prop. One of my favorite exercises with them used to be to lay down flat, arms above your head, legs out straight, hold the ball in your hands, bring them overhead, bring your feet into the middle, pass it over to your feet, and then you've got the ball in your feet. You've got to come back to that start position. So then the ball's between your feet, you're in that start position again, coming back, taking it back off your feet, it's in your hands again. So you're almost like doing sit-ups with the ball, but the weight distribution is changing. Sometimes it's in your feet, sometimes it's in your hands. You know, they're really good for doing ab work on crunches, because obviously as you come back over to sort of stretch your abs, you naturally take the shape of the ball, or the ball takes the shape of your back a little bit more rather than being on a hard floor that's just flat. If that makes sense as well, and sometimes even just the fact that you need to stabilize on them a lot more. If you've ever done a plank with your elbows on one of those stability balls that just wants to move all over the place, it's so much harder than just doing a plank on the floor. It really is. And again, they're not really ones that I've ever seen. I know that they were big, and same again the 90s and the noughties, but at the same time, you know, it's exercises that you can do by yourself with these stability balls. They're actually quite cost effective as well if you did want to get one for in the house and just have a look online for different exercises that you can do. But yeah, I don't know anywhere in the area locally. Again, that's something you guys can go and check out if that is something that appeals to you. But yeah, those stability balls, sometimes there's classes based around them as well. So by all means check that out if that's something that sort of stands out to you for sure. Right, guys. So on the next slides, we've pretty much got just a broken down sort of whatever I've just been talking about for the last hour, pretty much. So you can mainly use those next slides, you know, or again, if you're watching back and you don't want to have to sit through the whole 2 hours to find certain bits. I always like to make sure that the information's on slides that you can go back and find quite easily, and sort of pause at the right time, you know, and just have a little bit of a refresher, you know. So, you know, we've done spin, we've done body pump. Depending on what muscle groups we're going to be working on, body pump, legs, bums, and tums, you know, a little bit more specific to sort of target specific areas. Circuit training, you know, we've done. So I think we did Metafit, yoga, Zumba, Aqua Aerobics, stability ball. Awesome. So we've smashed through them. So if you don't mind, yeah, just slowly just spinning through them next couple of slides, please, buddy. Just so the guys have got them to go back, pause on, pull them up if they want to come back and revisit anything. We can actually roll on from there and start thinking about, you know, what is going to be local in the area. So that is where we're talking about venues, facilities that are going to be local to you guys. What is nearby to you guys, you know, and that is, you can class nearby however you want. Is it driving distance? Is it walking distance? You know, is it within half an hour's travel? Whatever way you're going, you know, how do you want to define it? What's going to be close enough to be a genuine sort of feasible realistic form of exercise for you, you know. For as much as I know that DW Fitness has got a swimming pool and a sauna and a steam room in the gym and exercise classes, I know that for me, when things are open again, driving to Sunderland 5 days a week to do my training is just not realistic, you know. So we've got to think about what we can actually do, you know. So again, plenty of what we mentioned earlier on. Can we look at you know, some of the stuff that's local to you and actually make a note and write them down, you know. Where's the nearest tennis court or tennis courts? Do you have football courts nearby? Do you have classes run in studios or in sort of community centres, just like we used to do it, you know? Are there gyms available? What's the prices of these gyms? How much do they cost? Will they let you sign up for a month, or do you have to sign up for a year straight away, which is quite a big thing that we've got to think about. I was always conscious and aware that it's quite a lot to ask somebody who's never been in a gym before to sign up for 12 months and commit to 12 months when, you know, they might try it for a month and it might not be for them.
That's a good point,
yeah. At the same time, committing to a year means that you're much more likely to use it for a year, in theory, you know. But again, the amount of people I've seen start in January, pay for the full year, and you never see them again after March. You know, that person may have been better off saying, I'm just going to pay month to month and finding a gym that offers that option. So again, we're thinking about that as well when we're looking at these facilities. Of course, we've got childcare to think about. Is it on site? Is it a gym that's got a creche in as well? You know, or something that you could maybe leave the kids for an hour? Is it a class that incorporates kids? You know, we used to run a class on a Sunday, again down at Sedgefield, that was parents and kids. You know, so I might be right. Parents, right, your mum and dad have got to do sit-ups till you get down there, collect these 5 cones and bring them back to me. And do you know what? It turned into a game because the kids would take the mick because they'd take as long as they could to make mum and dad suffer. Do you know what I mean? So,
so funny.
It was class. Do you know what, mate? It was some of the best classes that we did. You know, putting I used to have exercise cards with exercises written down, put face down at the end of the gym. The kids would run down, turn the exercise over, and then shout back what it was, and mum and dad have got to do however many it was for the exercise that it was, you know. And do you know what? It was really good. And it's peace of mind for sort of you guys and for the members that are coming in and doing it as well, because you've not got to think, oh, I've got to find someone to watch the kid for an hour on on a Sunday, you know, when they might be chilling out, or maybe, you know, they've gone out for a nice walk or something like that. I'm pretty knackered, so that's something we can think about as well. You know, swimming pools. In a second, buddy, remind me on. I'm gonna have a look when swimming pools are due to open again. Just when you're loading up the when you're loading up the workbooks.
Yeah. No.
And we'll have a look. We've got maybe thinking about a shop on site. You know, that could be a cafe as well. You know, something that can you get a protein shake afterwards? Can you get a pre-workout made beforehand? You know, we used to have a cafe in DW where a lot of people would actually train and then come down and order themselves like an omelette or a jacket tatty with beans or chili or something like that. You know, that's really good. Obviously, better than leaving the gym starving and hitting Subway on the way home.
True.
Or something like that. Or kidding yourself, it's okay to stop off and get a pizza because you've already done your exercise. You know, it's like, oh, it'll be easy. I've done the exercise. I've made my sacrifice for the day. I've taken the time out of my day. I'll just get a pizza. It's like, you know, there's a lot of ways around that as well. Personal trainers is something to think about as well. Of course, it's easy coming from me, who was one for so long. But you know what? They can be really, really valuable as a resource. Even just in terms of information, a little bit of guidance. You might not even necessarily need to pay for them, and their services and their feedback and their experiences. Like I used to just help as many people as I could. I wanted people to get the most out of their time and their money in the gym. And of course, at the end of the day, you build that rapport and that relationship. And when they do need to ask somebody a question, or if they are going to look for paid personal training sessions, once a week, once a month, whatever it's going to be, it would be me that they would come to, because obviously I've invested in them a little bit and tried to help them, not for my own profit, you know, if that sort of makes sense. And personal trainers were a good resource to me when I got qualified and went into the gym. I think I mentioned before, I identified a PT in the gym that I did want to be similar to, you know, that's the PT I can see myself being. And I picked his brains. I paid him for like 2 hours, not the teachers on the gym floor, but to sit down and have a coffee and pull the laptops up and say, right, I've got this client, what would you do with that? Okay, what would you do if this was the case? And just get a little bit of feedback. Mate, you know what, like, again, it's easy to say I haven't done it for so long, but people pick up so much experience in gyms all day. It really is like, it's a little bit of an alien concept to me still, the thought of just going to the gym for my exercise and leaving, and that's the only time I'm in the gym all week. You know, I've done 10, 12, 16-hour shifts there, but you pick up so much. So again, personal trainers can be a good resource. Even if that is me to you guys, do you know what I mean? Even if that is just a case of, do you know what? I've got a couple of questions. There's a PT in the gym that charges £25 an hour. You've got a retired one sat here pretty much, you know. So at the end of the day, you know, I'm more than happy to help and pass on my experiences, and some of the mistakes and some of the hard lessons that I've learned as well. So by all means, do hit me up, and I'm more than happy to help. And of course, we mentioned saunas and steam rooms quite a lot early doors. You know, is it something that we need to think about? Is it something that really appeals to you? Is it something that you need to be looking, where is the nearest one? How much is it for access? That sort of thing. Because, you know, thinking about the idea of pulling everything together, it'd be quite nice to be able to say, not only are your nearest basketball hoops here, your nearest tennis courts there, it'd be nice to say, okay, the mental well-being side of things, there's yoga here, there's Pilates there, there's saunas and steam rooms here, you know, there's walking groups here and ramblers that you can go and join and that sort of thing, for the mental well-being side of things. So again, you know, think about what you want to get out of your fitness and your activity, especially while we've got time to think about it, and before we're moving forward and restrictions are lifting, definitely. Okay, guys. So yeah, that gives you plenty to go away and do a little bit of research on, make a few notes, get a little bit of feedback. I'm quite interested to see what you come back with, actually, and like I say, see what's going on in your area, because your area might be different to others. You might live in a similar area to some other learners who just might find different stuff. You know, I might be able to say, oh, well, yeah, I know you've mentioned swimming. Well, so-and-so has mentioned that they found this little swimming baths down there that's not really advertised very much, but it is a little bit private, but you can go down and use it or whatever, you know. So it's a learning curve for all of us, you know, especially seeing what's going to be available and when, at what point, because timeline is going to be a big thing as we're moving forward, out of restrictions and hopefully out of lockdown, sooner or later, when it is safe to do so, you know. So yeah, like no time like the present to start having a little bit of a think about what we want to do when we've got all the options available to us again, you know. Okay, cool. So we've got two more slides that I just want to touch on really quickly before I ask Daniel to pull up the workbook that we're going to be looking at. We're going to get onto it a little bit more next week as well, about the importance of taking part in exercise safely. You know, it's one thing to identify the exercise that we want to take part in, why we want to take part in it, but then to actually go and carry it out and do it safely is a different sort of beast altogether, you know. So we've got to make sure that we're doing that as well, because the last thing you want to do, turn up for your first session, or even worse, maybe potentially even worse, you know, you've done a few sessions and you get to the point where you're really building some momentum, you haven't warmed up properly, your knee goes twang, and then all of a sudden you're looking at 4 weeks off, 6 weeks off, however long it might be. You know, when it comes to knees, that's being quite generous and quite optimistic as well, man, sometimes. Yeah. 4 to 6 weeks, you know. Buddy, I know you've had some nasty injuries and at least one nasty break that I know of.
Yeah, broke ankle before, man, from football. Yeah. So yeah, it's
you know, again, sometimes it can't be helped. Sometimes it is accidental. Sometimes it comes with contact sport, and that's not to say in any way, shape, or form that it's necessarily that person's fault. You know, you could have warmed up as much as you want that ankle, but I still would have snapped, mate, at the end of the day. But it does help us reduce that chance of getting injuries, needing to take time off to recover, and soreness as well the next day. To be honest, soreness and the whole recovery process. If you warm up and cool down, you know, you're going to feel a lot better for it. So, you know, just while we're on this slide, you know, we'd say a warm-up should be done before every workout. We're going to get to that in a second. Just 5 minutes of warming up can help get your body ready to exercise and help prevent injury. Again, you'll notice all the videos I've done on the Media Savvy channel, there's always a warm-up built in. It's just a few minutes long, but it gets you moving, normally through similar sort of stuff that you're going to be doing through the session as well. You know, so we're sort of gradually warming up. It's going to bring your heart rate up. You might feel it coming up, just like we do when we're doing a bit of yoga and stuff like that. You know, you don't have to be doing much to feel that heart rate rise. And you know, before we're doing our exercise, we're going to want to do what we call dynamic stretching,
Yep.
which is movement, which is where you might see the footballers sort of twisting side to side, that sort of thing, big arm circles. Because if you do static stretching, or what we call static stretching, you'd be pulling a muscle and just holding it.
Yeah.
Now that actually encourages the muscle to lengthen. So then you go and do your exercise and your activity, and those muscles might be willing to move further than they should. And then you put them into a position that they're not happy being in. And again, you can pick up injuries. You know, we're talking hyperextensions and stuff like that, you know, that we need to be aware of. And then we can think about, that I was just saying a second ago, a lower intensity version of what it is that you're about to do. So if you're going to go and do a load of press-ups, you want to do stuff that gets your upper body working. You know, you might get against the wall and do some pushing and stuff like that just to get that movement going.
Yeah.
You know, you might get the dumbbells and do the old rotator cuff exercise to warm those up. You wouldn't necessarily want to say, oh, I'm doing a load of press-ups today, I'm going to go and run on the treadmill for 10 minutes to warm up, because your legs will be warm, your heart rate will be elevated, and your blood will be moving around your body, but those muscles are still cold, those joints are still cold, because you haven't necessarily moved them, bar maybe having your arm swinging at your side a little bit as you're running, you know. So yeah, try and make it specific to what you're going to do. You know, I wouldn't say if you're going to go and do a load of squatting and trying to get some heavy weights on your squats, I wouldn't say go and do a load of skipping as a warm-up, because yeah, it'll do your shoulders, and you're going to get your calves working and your ankle joint, but at the same time, your quads are still going to be cold, your glutes and your hamstrings are still going to be cold as well. So yeah, lower intensity version of what it is that you're going to do. And you can maybe just do some cardio as well, you know, depending on what your training is going to be, marching on the spot, cycling, skipping, that sort of thing, star jumps. The more movement, the better normally. And like I say, just at a moderate rate, to be honest. Like I say, save your energy. You don't want to peak too soon, do you, as well, and burn a load of your energy during your warm up, and then you get under your work and sets. You go for a personal best, and you again feeling weak as they come, really. You know, so again, your warm up's going to be specific, and it is play. It's not a formality that you need to do. It's all part of the process. It's part of the plan. You know, it's not just right, let's get this out of the way with. A good warm up will actually help you perform better during your session and during your workout. And then we've got, of course, the other side of the scale, which is the cool down. You know, helping your heart rate come back down to its resting rate, or your resting beats per minute. You know, and then with your exercise done and out the way with, this is the time to do your static stretching. So that would be when you can say, okay, and now I'm going to do me pulling my arm across, and we can actually see on the image the guy's doing like a tricep and a lat stretch. That's the time to do that after you've done your workout. And then it sort of stops those muscles just seizing up and going cold as well. And like Daniel mentioned earlier on, you've had a lot of blood getting pumped to the muscle that you're working. Give your body a chance to regulate that again.
Totally.
Otherwise it just stays in the muscle, and you end up with even worse, what we call DOMS, which is your delayed onset of muscle soreness. Which is, it's no laughing matter at all. Mate, when you've had it, like definitely. DOMS is the one thing that gets me during my first week of training. If I've had any time off, DOMS is the thing that says to me, I'm never taking a week off again. Do you know what I mean? Because I was doing this easy, and now I'm buckled and I can't.
Oh, that's it, mate. Yeah.
You know, 100%. But yeah, warm up and cool down, so important. We're going to look at them a little bit more next week, because of course they're massive in the idea we're doing exercise and fitness safely, which is where our focus is going to be next week. And then other than that, that'll about do me for today. Unless you've got anything to add, buddy.
No, that's it, man, pretty much.
Spot on. So if you don't mind just spinning onto that last slide again, just so you guys can come back and refresh and double check any homework that you've got to do, or any workbook stuff that needs doing. As always, please don't forget to fill in the survey. It's a massive help to us. It helps us fill in paperwork for you, and saves us needing to send out emails and even just trying to phone you and say, oh, what did you think of this? And at the same time, your feedback's really important to us. You know, we like to know what we're doing well and how we can suit you guys even better. You know, because you guys are our driving force. You're why we do what we do, and of course we want to be making sure that we're shaping things to you guys as much as we can. So for this week, we're going to be looking at pages 2 and 5 in the Taking Part in Exercise and Fitness workbook. If you don't mind just pulling that up for us 2 seconds, please, Daniel. Cheers. And then, of course, that slide's there if anybody wants to go back to. So pages 2 and 5 in the workbook. I'm just going to see if I can find ever so quickly for Sue when swimming pools are reopening.
Yeah, no worries.
When are pools reopening UK? Let's have a look. Across England, the earliest date for reopening of indoor swimming pools has been confirmed as April 12th, so yesterday for some.
Wow.
Indoor swimming pools will be welcoming visitors at the same time as indoor gyms and leisure facilities, as well as non-essential retail stores. Yeah, so they're open. Again, it might just be a case of having a look and seeing what their procedures are in terms of letting you get changed. Do you need to book a certain time and stick to certain slots so they can effectively clean changing rooms and stuff like that? Or is it just, do you know what, you're going to have to stand at poolside and sort of towel dry yourself, and you know, when you're feeling dry enough, put your togs on over the top and get yourself away home. It's not ideal, but of course, if we could do a little bit of looking into that as well over the next week, it'll be interesting to see. So if you do find anything out, please do let us know, because of course that's really helpful going forward, knowing what the crack's going to be there. Right, so back to this stream. If you've got that workbook open, buddy, are we there? I'm just getting caught up on the stream.
Yeah, it's just open there, mate. We're page 2. It's outline different exercise and fitness activities.
Spot on, mate. Cheers. So we've got page 2. I'm just getting it loaded up on this end as well, rather than trying to read through the stream. So yeah, we can actually look at in your area stuff that's available to you. We're going to have 3 forms of exercise or fitness, and then a little description to go with them. Then we're going to identify different facilities, you know, be it a park, be it a gym, be it a leisure centre, be it a community centre, and whatever it's going to be. And then we are going to leave pages 3 and 4 for next week, because that's all to do with the safety side of things, inductions, what we would expect. And then we are going to, we're just going to finish up page 5 as well, which is about warm-up and cool-downs, which we just kind of briefly touched on there. And again, we can sort of mention sort of what might be suitable. So one activity that's suitable for a warm-up, you know, we've said skipping, cardio, marching, cycling, any of that sort of thing, and what that entails. And then for the cool down, we can do the same again, you know, be that just stretching, or, you know, depending if you've just done a load of running, you know, again, if you're training for running, some of the best ways to cool down might be just a reduced pace. Yeah. You know, if you're on an automated treadmill these days, normally, and you hit stop, rather than emergency stop, of course, if you hit the regular stop, normally it would just go into cool down and say, okay, based on what you've done, I'm going to give you 3-4 minutes at this speed, just to cool you down a little bit as well. So sometimes it is just a reduced form of what you've just been doing, you know, just like a reduced form can work as a good warm up. It can be a good cool down as well. Okay, guys, yeah, so that'll wrap us up for this week then. So we'll come back to this workbook next week, so keep it handy. And then, like I say, in the meantime, we're just going away doing a little bit of research. Again, the survey is in the description in the video, I'm guessing, buddy?
Yes, it is, mate. The workout fit and the survey are both in the description.
Perfect.
So just there if you need them, guys.
Awesome, guys. So again, sort of as always, let me know how you get on with the fitness video when you do them. Again, you know, that's going to take you to a playlist now that's got them all in. So if you look and see, today's abs, I did some yoga yesterday and my core's hurt and I want to do some upper body exercises. Just find an upper body exercise one and do that one. You know, there's a few different videos on there that you can pick from now. Cool. Awesome work, guys. So perfect. As always, if you do get stuck with anything, and or if you feel like you're missing anything, please do let me know and give me a shout. My email is in the description underneath the video as well, if you do need that. But of course, you should have that from me sending you out these links every week as well. So again, just give me a shout if you need a hand with anything. And other than that, guys, that'll wrap us up then. So we will be back next week, same time, next Tuesday, 10 till 12. And we'll be talking, like I say, about making sure we can exercise safely. And like I say, just looking at the health and safety behind it a little bit more. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for jumping in the chat. And Daniel, thanks for jumping on and giving us a hand this morning, mate. Been a pleasure as always.
All good, yeah. No worries, bro.
Yeah. You guys stay safe. Have a good week. And I'll catch you next Tuesday then.
Cool. Thanks a lot, guys. See you later.
Spot on.